Once upon a time, there lived a poor widow, and she had a son, Jack, and a cow, Belyanka. The cow gave milk every morning, and the mother and son sold it in the bazaar, and that was how they lived. But once Belyanka did not give milk, and they did not have food. Mom decided to sell the cow and open a shop with the proceeds. Jack took the rein in his hands and led the cow to the market. No sooner had he arrived than he met some wonderful old man. He said he would like to trade Jack's cow for beans. And with these words, he took out a handful of some strange beans from his pocket. The old man said these beans are magical. They need to be planted in the evening, and by morning they will grow to the very sky. Jack became very interested and agreed. The boy came home early. Mother was very angry that he gave the dairy cow in the whole neighborhood for a handful of some nasty beans. But Jack remembered the old man's words and decided that there was nothing to do, and planted beans in the yard. He went up to his attic sad, and fell asleep. In the morning, Jack woke up and saw something like a large tree in the yard. And this, it turns out, his beans sprouted, and the huge stem continued to grow upward until it grew to the sky. Jack jumped onto the stem and climbed up like a ladder. He climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed until, at last, he reached the sky. There he saw a long and wide road that led him to a huge castle. Jack went to his gate and knocked. The gate opened, and a tall woman stood on the threshold. Stuttering with fear, the boy asked for something for breakfast. The giantess let him in, but warned him not to catch the eye of her husband, because he is a cannibal. She took Jack to the kitchen. But before he had time to eat even half of his breakfast, suddenly the whole house shook from someone's steps. The boy was not taken aback and instantly jumped into the furnace. And at that very moment, the cannibal entered the room. Well, he was as big as a mountain. The cannibal took out 2 bags of gold from a huge chest and sat down to count the coins. He counted and counted, finally began to nod off, and began to snore. Then Jack quietly climbed out of the oven, crept past the cannibal, grabbed 1 bag of gold, and rushed to the beanstalk. He threw the bag down, and he began to go down the stem lower and lower, until, finally, he found himself at his house. Jack told his mother everything that had happened to him, and handed her a bag of gold. They began to live on the money that was in the bag. But eventually the sack was empty and Jack decided to try his luck one more time at the top of the beanstalk. One fine morning, he got up early and climbed a beanstalk. The man-eater's wife stood at the threshold of the huge castle. She said that she would not let him in, because the last time her husband had lost a bag of gold. But all the same, she took pity on the poor boy, and let him into the castle. Suddenly the footsteps of a giant were heard, and Jack again hid in the furnace. The cannibal entered and told his wife to bring the hen that lays the golden eggs. The giantess brought it, and the ogre ordered the chicken to lay, and she laid the golden egg. The pleased giant began nodding and snoring. Then Jack climbed out of the oven, grabbed the golden chicken, and rushed to the beanstalk. The boy returned home. He showed his mother a wonderful chicken, and they began to live selling golden eggs. But soon it seemed to Jack that this was not enough. And he again decided to try his luck at the top of the beanstalk. This time the boy climbed into the castle through the window. He jumped into a copper cauldron and hid. The cannibal and his wife entered the room. The giant smelled the boy, and they rushed to look for him in the oven. But he was not there. They searched every nook and cranny, but they didn't think to look into the copper cauldron. Desperate to search, the ogre ordered his wife to bring a golden harp and put it on the table. Under her beautiful sounds, the cannibal snored. Then Jack quietly climbed out of the cauldron, grabbed the golden harp and rushed to the door. But the harp played loudly and woke the cannibal. Jack ran at breakneck speed, leaping onto a beanstalk, and the giant in pursuit. Jack went down to his house and yelled at his mother to carry the axe. The mother ran out with an axe in her hands. The boy grabbed the axe and began to chop the beanstalk. The ogre felt the stem swing violently and stopped. Then Jack struck again with an axe and cut the beanstalk. It swayed and collapsed, and the ogre fell to the ground and crashed. From that day on, Jack and his mother never knew poverty again. But the boy was very sorry that, because of their greed, they almost paid with their lives. He promised that he would never steal again and would work hard for the good of the family. A long time ago, a miller kept a donkey. For many years, the donkey did hard work and was an indispensable helper for the miller. But the years passed, and the donkey became old and weak. He could no longer work at the mill, and the owner did not have the means to feed the animal. So, after a little reflection, the miller took the donkey out into the field and left him. The donkey stumbled on the spot for a long time, not knowing what to do. Suddenly he decided that he would go to the glorious city of Bremen to become a street musician and earn his living by playing the guitar. The road to the city took the donkey into the forest. For a long time he made his way through the trees until he met a sad dog lying on the grass. She had run a long way, and now she fell exhausted by the road. The donkey greeted the dog and asked why she was sad. Then the dog said that he used to be a great hunter, and such that not a single prey could escape. But now he has grown old and can no longer chase game. Therefore, the owner drove him out. The donkey thought a little, and then told the dog that he was planning to become a street musician. Suddenly the dog jumped off and barked happily. It turned out that he knows how to sing and plays the drums well, and therefore does not mind keeping the donkey company. On that and decided. Now the donkey did not go to Bremen alone. They walked through the forest together, and each sang in his own way as best he could. And then they met a cat on the road. He was so sad that the newly made friends could not pass by. They began to ask the cat why he was so unhappy. It turned out that the evil mistress drove the cat out of the house, because he was old and can no longer catch mice. Then the donkey conferred with the dog, and they decided to take the cat into the group as a violinist. And so the animals continued on their way to Bremen, until they met a rooster on the way. He sat on the hedge and crowed with horror all over the cock's throat. Friends spoke to him and learned that the rooster had escaped from the hostess, who considered him old and decided to cook soup out of him. Without thinking twice, the donkey, the dog and the cat called a rooster into the group, giving him a balalaika. So, the newly made troupe walked through the forest until night fell. Friends had no choice but to settle down for the night by a large tree. The donkey and the dog lay down from below, the cat climbed onto a branch, and the rooster sat on the very top of the tree. Suddenly a light flashed in the distance.
What?
The rooster perked up his senile eye and noticed the hut in which the light was dimly burning. Then the friends decided to spend the night in a hut. But when they made their way to the hut and looked out the window, they saw their 4 robbers celebrating another successful robbery. Already pretty hungry, the musicians decided to drive the bandits out of their lair. And now a plan ripened in the minds of friends. The donkey fell on the windowsill, the dog sat on the donkey, the cat on the dog, and a rooster turned out to be at the top of the pyramid. Then the donkey started screaming, the dog barking, the cat meowing, and the rooster crowing. Frightened by the suddenly appeared monster, the robbers ran out of the hut in fear. And friends happily settled in the hut. They ate the robbers' food and went to bed quietly. However, the bandits did not want to put up with the fact that their lair was taken over. And then they sent one of the robbers to investigate. Under cover of night, he made his way into the hut, but in the darkness did not notice the cat and stepped on it. The cat scratched the bandit's leg in a rage. The dog bit his hand, the rooster pecked in the head, and the donkey kicked his hoof with all his might in the eye. So, the bandit ran out of the hut in horror and told the rest of the robbers that terrible giants had settled in their lair, from whom it was better to stay away. From that moment on, no one disturbed the friends in the forest house. They lived in peace and harmony and called themselves the Bremen Town Musicians.